guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sarah if you are new here. Today's video is going to be a little different videos, but enjoy recipes. So I wanted to do something that kind of accommodated that. So as you're watching this video, it might seem a little off because I might mention earlier in the day I did XYZ, or I might be talking about something that maybe pertains a little bit to the day that I was filming that, so you'll have to excuse that, or maybe it just won't, I don't know, like line up quite the same as if I was strictly just filming a recipe video. So you'll have to excuse that. I'll see how this one goes. If you have any feedback, let me know. But this really is just for those people that don't want to watch all of the videos during the week but really like the recipes. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the video. All of the recipes will be linked down in the description, and there will be timestamps down there if you're interested in a specific recipe. This will also help if you have seen the around the house day in the life videos, saw a recipe in there and wanted to reference it but couldn't quite remember which recipe or which video the recipe was in. Now you can just come to this recipe video and we'll see how it does. I don't know if I'll continue to do this or what I will choose to do, but we're gonna go ahead and give it a try today. Don't forget to subscribe before we get into it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to get a Dr. Pepper pulled pork put in the crock pot. I have a picnic roast. If it doesn't shred apart like pulled pork does really easy, then I'll just like cut it and it'll be more like a pork loin sandwich, and my family's not going to care. Anthony's just happy to be having pork because he likes pork and I don't care for it, so I don't make it very often. For this recipe, you're going to need your pork. I have some smoked paprika, some Dr. Pepper, and I'm using a cream soda one because I already had it. Garlic, fresh garlic. You can use powdered garlic if you don't have any. Some cumin, onion powder, salt and pepper I have in here. Some spray just to spray the crock pot a little bit. Honey, some smoky barbecue sauce, and some brown sugar. It also says to like put an onion, like cut up onion on the bottom, and I have to grab it from the fridge still. My pork is still frozen because when I went grocery shopping, I thought, oh, I'm not going to eat this pork for a few days, let me throw it in the freezer, and I completely slipped my mind to pull it out. Just spray the bottom with some, this is just olive oil spray, just to help with sticking. Again, I will leave this recipe linked down in the description box in case you are interested, but I just put the sliced onions on the bottom. I did spray the crock pot. Put the pork in, poured the Dr. Pepper on top, put on some honey. I know it looks like caramel, but it is honey. And then it called for garlic. I didn't want to get my like mincer garlic press dirty because it's kind of a pain to clean, so I just used scissors to cut it up. Sprinkled on the brown sugar, put the seasonings on, and then put the barbecue sauce on top. And then, like I said, Anthony flipped this around during the day and kind of like scooped the sauce back on the top of it. Anthony has been in charge. We'll see how it's looking. Looks like pork. It's kind of pulling apart. I'm going to temp it. I'm going to pull this out and shred it up and then put it back into the juices so that like the middle that hasn't been exposed to all of that can really soak it all up. So yeah, this pork did not shred very well. There were a few spots that it did, but I just kind of cut it into chunks and we ate it like that, and it was more like a pork loin and it was fine. I think leftovers of this, we actually didn't have all that much leftover, but leftovers of this would be really good on like a barbecue pizza, or if you wanted to make like a true sandwich with it. But I cut that up and then put it back into the crock pot. Moving on to continue getting dinner ready. So I'm just peeling up a sweet potato. I make sweet potatoes, like mashed sweet potatoes, the same way I make regular mashed potatoes. So cutting them up into chunks, filling the pot with water, and boiling it until fork tender. I will say sweet potatoes do take a little while longer to get soft than like a regular russet or baking potato. I just have this like 98-cent Jiffy box of cornbread mix, and you mix in milk, or I used heavy whipping cream, and an egg, and then just put it in your pan and bake it for the amount of time that the box says. Ryder absolutely loved this. This was the first time he had ever had cornbread, and he ate almost this whole pan of cornbread by himself. So that is a win in my book. So to the sweet potatoes, I added a little bit of butter, a little bit of heavy whipping cream, and some salt and pepper. And you just mix those up into your desired consistency. And I use a spoon to kind of pull it away from the sides after I've used the mixer to make sure that it's all good to go. And I love the taste of mashed sweet potatoes. And this is our plate. We had that cornbread. Some of my family had honey on it, the pork with a little more barbecue sauce, and then the mashed sweet potatoes. This recipe was really simple. Basically, you just cut everything up to your desired size. I tried to make everything the same, about a bite size, and then mix it all together with vinegar and oil. It was so good. And I saw a tip on how to store it where you take a piece of plastic and put it like right on top of the avocado mixture in the bowl, and then put the airtight lid on top of the bowl, and it makes sure that the avocados do not brown. And I can confirm after 3 days I did not have any brown avocados.
Didn't know I missed this passion in life. Now I'm addicted somehow. Let me tell you what is up with your smile? It's impossible, not melting, irresistible. When I look through your eyes, not even sky's the limit. I used to be satisfied, stayed over the surface. Now I just can't get enough. You make me feel good like no other. I just want everyone to see what I've discovered. And when I'm with you, I go higher. You lift me up, now I can see so much farther. Beyond the horizon. Beyond the horizon. I'm a butterfly who has only begun, taking me a while to get it. Had to live and cry to appreciate life, and what you give is worth it. When you're holding me, when you hold me so close, I want further in under your skin.
Again, this recipe will be linked down below. I did not measure this bowl. Batter bowl is actually a large measuring cup, so I kind of used that for the Greek yogurt. I used what was left in my peanut butter container. I used, I don't know, approximately 2 scoops of the protein powder, a little bit of syrup, and a little bit of the vanilla. And I mixed it up. I did use my mixer just to make sure it was like really incorporated really well. And then I used the spatula to like scrape the sides and everything. And then you just take it and you flatten it out on a cookie sheet lined with parchment paper. The parchment paper just makes it easy to like peel up later on to break it apart. And then melt some dark chocolate chips and put it on top. I don't know how the picture on Pinterest looked so beautiful because mine did not. But the look does not determine the taste. So it went in the freezer for a couple hours and it peeled off the parchment paper really easy, and it did break apart.
What you do, you know that all I think about is you. Say the things you say, I don't know how you make me feel this way. I got you inside my head, and you're never coming out.
And I just stored it. I started off with a glass bowl, putting it in there, and then realized that that was not enough space. So I put the rest of it into like a food prep container, starting with some ground beef. And I seasoned it with salt and pepper while I was cooking it. And then after it was almost all the way done, I did what would be in a taco seasoning. So garlic powder, onion powder, chili powder, paprika, cumin, some more salt and pepper, I think, and a little bit of chipotle, and cooked that up. And then I was getting the oil hot, and I took the little tortillas, wrapped them in a damp paper towel, and put them in the microwave for a few seconds to just kind of loosen them up. And then I also made bean dip, and this night I just made it in the microwave because I didn't want to dirty another pan, if I'm being completely honest. The boys just had cheese tacos. I didn't put any beef in them because I knew they wouldn't actually eat it. So just put it in there, put the cheese in there, fold it over, and then put it in the hot oil. I did a very shallow oil, and just fry it on both sides until it is golden brown. I did have a couple tortillas that started to rip apart, but that's okay. They tasted delicious. And then I just repeated that process with the ones that had the beef and the cheese in them, and they were very good. Moving on then to dinner. This night I made BBQ Chicken Tostadas. I will leave the recipe linked down in the description if you'd like to give them a try. We didn't actually have any tostadas, but we did have corn tortillas, so I went ahead and made my own, which is really simple. I'll show you that here in just a second, but just getting the chicken cut up into pieces and obviously cleaning up my countertop. And then I seasoned with garlic powder, onion powder, salt, pepper, and then I have this dried barbecue seasoning that I put on there and cooked it up just in some butter. I did add some Buffalo Wild Wings, like barbecue chipotle seasoning, to mine and Anthony's after I pulled the kids out. And then to make those tostadas, you just fry the tortillas in some oil. This is what ours looked like. I put avocado on the bottom of mine, and we had some sweet corn, and they were actually really good. One is a chocolate chip Oreo brownie. So I'm starting off, they were so good. I'm starting off making the dough for the cookie dough. It's just a basic cookie dough recipe: sugar, brown sugar, butter, eggs, vanilla, salt, flour, all of the things. I'll leave the recipe for this link down below if you're interested as well. And I did use my mixer. If you don't have one, you can use a hand mixer. If you don't have one of those, just mix it up by hand. Use what you have. Not a big deal. I was gifted this KitchenAid 6 years ago from my husband for Christmas, I think, well before we had kids, when we had 2 incomes and life wasn't so expensive. And then you just take this cookie dough mixture and you put it in the bottom of a greased 9x13. I actually think maybe the recipe says to use parchment paper, and I didn't. I was using my hand to pat it down, and I realized that that was just not working out. So I took a spoon and sprayed it with some cooking spray and then just spread it all out. It wasn't even, and that didn't matter. Beyond gravel, beyond. And then you just line up Oreos on there. Look how beautiful that is. That was probably the easiest part of this dessert. And then you put brownie mix on top. The recipe does have a homemade brownie option, or like a mix. It's not a box mix. You do actually make it, but it was so simple. I just used the same bowl that I used for the cookie dough, and I did not wash it out because it's all going in the same dessert anyway. Mix that up, and then you just pour that on top and spread it out evenly. Bake it. If I'm being honest, I don't remember what you bake it at or how long you bake it for. But they were so good. Hand in hand, building castles out of sand, reaching for the. And this is what they look like when they're done. You can see those visible layers. We had so many, we ended up giving them away. This 9x13 pan was like intense. Starting out, I decided to get my apron on because there was lots of flour. So I do sift, or it recommends you sift your flour. I don't have a sifter, but I do have this mesh strainer, and I have used this for the entirety that I've been making this pancake mix. So pretty much I just put everything in it and shake it, and it like sifts it in there. And then I do use a whisk to mix it all up, and that kind of sifts it a little bit more. And then obviously combines the baking powder, baking soda, and salt with the flour. And I made a double batch of this, which is why I'm doing the whole process all over again. Say what you mean. Don't waste your time being mad at me. Say what you mean. Say what you mean. And you'll get what you need. Get what you need. What I do is try to give you more than words. When I say I quit, it's only cause it hurts. We got play. I had to clean up my mess from making the mix, and then I'm moving on to making the pancake donuts. I did about 2 cups worth of the dry mix, a little splash of maple extract, a little bit of milk, and then 2 scoops of kids protein powder. And then I added more. I don't know how much I added in total, but I just keep adding and mixing until it's the consistency of pancake batter. I know that's not really helpful if you aren't used to making pancake batter, and I'm sorry for that. But then this day I had some helpers. So Ryder started first. He was taking his whisking very seriously while I was getting the donut mold set up, and then Noah saw him and wanted to come help. It was short-lived for him though. He didn't care as much. And then I'm just taking a cookie dough scoop and putting it into the donut molds here that I have they're just silicone. It was a little more than 1 scoop, like 1.5 scoops of this size. I filled it so that the batter was like 3/4 of the way full of the mold. Added sprinkles to one pan and chocolate chips to another. If I did it again, I would mix the sprinkles in because and the chocolate chips, they did just sit on top. So then my kids only wanted to eat the top part of the donut. I've got this feeling, I'm feeling you could be the one. I see no reason why
I should ever let you go.
Once they were done, I just put them on a cooling rack to cool off. You can see the steam coming off of there. They were very hot. And then the amount I made also made 6 more donuts. I just didn't show all of that. And then I moved on to the white bean avocado dip. So it's 1 can of cannellini beans, drained and rinsed, and we recycle our cans, so I rinsed the can out into the beans while I was doing that. And then everything just goes into a food processor or a blender, whatever you have. So the can of cannellini beans and some olive oil, I didn't measure, I just kind of added some. Half of an avocado. I would have put the whole avocado in there, but Noah actually ate it for lunch that day, so it wasn't that big of a deal. 1 jalapeno. I did not remove any of the seeds because I wanted a little bit of spice. Some fresh garlic and some spinach. I will say I wish I would have taken the spinach and put it through the food processor before I started mixing everything up, because the stems did kind of stay in the mixture, and so the texture bothered me a little bit. Then also added in some cilantro and 2 limes. And again, mix that all up, and then I just put it in the container and stored this in the fridge. It was good. I ate it within about 4 days. It was pretty good.
Don't wanna wake up if I'm dreaming, because you know I can't get enough of this feeling you give.
For dinner, Anthony was gone this night, or I would not have made this recipe because I don't think he would have liked it. I know he wouldn't have liked it. He might have eaten just the chicken. But it is a Greek chicken bowl, and so I'm just making the marinade for the chicken, which is olive oil, lemon, some honey. This is all the honey I had left, and I didn't measure any of this stuff. That's just kind of my jam. And then some spices. I will leave this recipe linked down in the description if you are interested. I did make this marinade only about 30 minutes before I actually made the chicken, so it really didn't sit in there that long. And I shouldn't have added so many red pepper flakes because it was pretty spicy.
Wanna take a different lane, wanna play my own game, and I don't need you here.
But then I just took 1 chicken breast, so again, it was just me having dinner, and then I wanted enough for leftovers the next day. So I did do 1 whole chicken breast, and I'm just kind of butterflying it out and making like thin little pieces of it so that it would cook a little bit faster. Putting it in that marinade, again, it sat there for 30 minutes, and then I got my rice started. This is just basmati rice. And I added in some oregano and some parsley, salt and pepper. Cooked that. I cooked it a little too long. And then I'm making the tzatziki. Is that how you say that? Sauce, dip, whatever. So it's Greek yogurt, a shredded cucumber, mixing that up, and then adding in lemon juice and some spices for this as well, and just letting that sit until it was time to eat.
Won't you let me go? Wanna take this ball and chain that you have put on me and throw it out the window. I think that you should let go, 'cause you know this is not meant to be. Let go. Maybe I should have known that you are not the right one.
And then I used my cast iron with a little bit of butter to cook the chicken until it was cooked through. And then in the bowl, I put rice, lettuce, tomatoes, cucumber, red onion, feta cheese, that chicken, and then the dressing. And then, like I said, I was going to include a dessert video at the end of a few videos because I have them all filmed and saved up. This was from 4th of July, actually. This is a sugar cookie bar. And so it was just a sugar cookie base with, sugar, butter, eggs, vanilla, flour. This also had baking powder and cornstarch in it. I had never put cornstarch into a cookie type thing before. Mixing it up until it's, a good consistency, all mixed together. And then pressing it into an 8x8 that had parchment paper in it. My camera battery died and I didn't realize it, so I don't have that clip. But then I used like a spoon that was sprayed with olive oil to smoosh it out and spread it all around and all of that. This is what it looked like after it was done cooking. It did look a little bit soft, but in the directions, it does say that. And then the next morning, I'm still in my pajamas, and I'm getting the frosting put together before we left for a parade. And it's just butter, powdered sugar, vanilla, and some heavy cream. It was 3 tablespoons of heavy cream, and I was using a teaspoon, so that's why it looks like it looks like I'm adding a lot. Mix that up, put it on top, and then I obviously put red, white, and blue sprinkles on it since it was for the 4th of July. But you could leave the sprinkles off and just have these as a sugar cookie bar, or you could put festive other holiday sprinkles on there.
It's been
running like a waterfall. Thought the stars would never let you down. And you keep on thinking you could save yourself, but that's love, that's just love. You should know some things will hurt, and you let...
Starting out with my blueberries, I had to pick through every single one of them because for some reason this container we got had a lot of stems left on the blueberries, and I didn't want one of those accidentally getting mixed in there. And then this is not part of the recipe, but I did choose to put a spoonful of sugar on top of the blueberries and let them sit while I was mixing the rest of everything else. Also, this is not a gluten-free recipe, I don't believe. Oh, maybe it is. It might have asked for almond flour if it is gluten-free. I don't remember without looking, to be honest. Or it might have just been a regular muffin recipe and I used gluten-free flour, 1-to-1 flour instead. Also, it called for lemon zest and I didn't have a lemon, so I just put a little lemon juice in there. It was a really simple recipe. The batter was so thick. For a while, I contemplated adding more liquid because I just kept thinking, like, there's no way this is going to turn out because it's so thick. But they were actually really delicious. I liked them a lot. My kids did not. So I'm like 0 for 2 here. Is that what it is? 0 wins, 2 losses on breakfast prep lately.
A little bit scared of heights. Why does the rain always keep on pouring down?
But you can see here, it's like really thick. And then I added in the blueberries.
When it's gray outside, it really makes me wonder. Yeah, it makes me.
And then I used a jumbo muffin pan. It's just the only thing that I have. And although they're silicone and rarely does anything stick, I still spray them down just to be sure. Just with some olive oil spray. And I don't know what was going through my mind when I was filling this muffin tin because I didn't have like any sort of rhyme or reason with my pattern of filling that, and I was just going everywhere. This is what they looked like, super fluffy. I liked them a lot with a little bit of butter. And then I did store them in a plastic bag. I don't typically like to use plastic to store our stuff. I try to use glass as much as possible, but I didn't have a container that was big enough. Moving on to the avocado jalapeno dip. This was so good. I really enjoyed it. I will say I should have removed some of those seeds from those jalapenos I just cut because it was spicy. And my cream cheese wasn't super softened. It hadn't sat out long enough. By the time I made this, it was a little difficult. Also, I did make another modification. I used half a block of cream cheese instead of a full block, and then I added in Greek yogurt to kind of, help with the nutritional value, add a little protein, cut out some fat, all of that. All of the good things. And I obviously have never made it the other way, but I don't think you could really tell. It was pretty thick, definitely like a thick dip, but it was delicious. I will definitely make it again. It kind of reminds me of the Chewy's dip, but much thicker.
It really makes me wonder. Ooh, I wonder.
Moving on to dinner, this was really simple. I just took some chicken, trimmed it up, and then cut it into like different size pieces. I tried to make them kind of consistent so they would cook the same. And did I tell you what I'm making? It's like a gluten-free chicken strip, basically. I've really been missing being able to have like chicken wings or boneless chicken wings or like chicken strips and things like that, and so I made them this night. I was actually the only one that ended up eating any of them. Anthony got home really late and he hadn't eaten his lunch that day, so he decided to just eat his lunch. And the boys, I don't remember what they had. I don't think they actually ate any of the chicken. But after I cut them, I just patted them so that they could kind of dry out. And then my breading mixture is gluten-free flour, onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and a little bit of smoked paprika, just seasoned to your liking. And then 2 eggs, and I whisk those up super well. I used to do flour, egg, flour, but then I recently learned that actually just can make the coating, the breading, fall off of the chicken easier when you do flour first. So I don't actually know. I've never tested the theory, but since I read that, I've only done like the egg mixture, or sometimes you would do buttermilk or milk or anything like that. And then the flour mixture, I put them in the air fryer after I sprayed the basket and cooked them for, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes.
I don't think it took quite that long, 12 minutes maybe, just because just until the chicken was cooked all the way through. And they did look a little floury on the outside. You could definitely taste that, but it helped satisfy my craving. Getting started on this banana bread, I'll link the recipe I used down below. I doubled this recipe, so if you're only making one batch, don't do this much. And then the other modification I made is I add Greek yogurt at the end. But it's pretty much the same as every banana bread I've ever made. You have sugar, eggs, butter, bananas, vanilla, baking soda, salt, all of the good things. These bananas were perfect. They were like just about to the point where you needed to throw them away, and they're disgusting, but perfect for a banana bread. And so I didn't even have to mash them up before I put them in the mixer. I just threw them right in.
Just to be with you somehow, unexpected love was found.
And then adding in the flour after that.
You're the rose in a garden, and it shows if I'm honest. You're the leaves in mid.
I did decide to make chocolate chip banana bread, so adding in chocolate chips. Again, remember this is a double batch, so it looks like a lot of chocolate chips, but it's 2 whole loaf pans. These are the long loaf pans that I have, and I did use a cookie dough scoop, not necessarily to measure them, but just to make sure that I had the same amount of batter in each of the pans so that it would cook the same, or cook evenly, I guess. They'd be the same size, all of the things, and this is what it looked like when it was done. I was told that it was very delicious. My kids loved it. My family loved it. It was good. And then I moved on to make some guacamole. These avocados were perfect. They were just like super soft, but not gross. They were the perfect. Also, I guess I say I was making guacamole, but as I started to make it, I realized I didn't actually have all of the ingredients I would normally put in there. But I did 4 avocados, a Roma tomato, and then onion, white onion. Normally I prefer to add red onion, but I didn't have one. I didn't have any jalapenos. I also thought that I had cilantro. Turns out it was parsley. So that's my bad. I also did put some garlic in there, some lime juice, some jalapeno salt, and pepper. I went a little heavy on the jalapeno salt. I probably should have held back a little bit, but it was pretty good. I definitely missed the cilantro though. That's my favorite part of guacamole, so I was really sad when I discovered that it was parsley.
And I've come out here to say that I love you.
And then getting the roast put in. So both roast, honestly, we probably could have gotten away with just one of them. But I put the pepperoncinis and the juice on there, some garlic powder, a whole lot of dry ranch seasoning. This is my own homemade ranch seasoning. I did onion, what is that called? Like dried minced onion, and some black pepper, and then 1.5 sticks of butter. I know it seems like a lot, but it is a lot of roast. The mashed potatoes, it's so satisfying to watch some of this stuff at fast speed. Do you guys, are you able to use like a paring knife and peel your potatoes or your carrots or anything like that? Because I am nearly 30 years old and I've never been able to do that. I get so scared. And then because I'm scared, I'm not confident in moving the knife. And I feel like I'm going to slip and cut myself. So I still use a potato peeler at 30 years old. Or almost 30. I'm not 30 yet. I should stop aging myself. But, you know. And then I just cut the potatoes up into chunks so that I could boil them. And I put that towel underneath my cutting board because a cutting board moves around on the counter a lot. But the towel prevents that from happening so that things aren't sliding around and I'm not cutting my hand. But then I just, I don't know, cut them up so they're all about the same size. Fill it with water, boil it until the potatoes are fork tender. As that was boiling, I went ahead and got the salad mixed up. So I just take the arugula and I use scissors to cut it up into better pieces. It helps so that the stems aren't aggressive when you're eating them. And then I had that salad kit. I started to cut it up, but realized the pieces were actually pretty small on that. So not a big deal there. This was a salad kit again. So it had everything, bagel seasoning in there. So I put that on there, and then I just put the dressing and the crouton things on top. Moving on to the bread. This was not a gluten-free recipe, or it's rolls, I guess is what I'm making. It's not a gluten-free recipe, but I tried to make it a gluten-free recipe.
So slow, hold you in my arms, won't let.
Okay, let me explain. You start with your yeast mixture. So warm water, yeast, and sugar. Recipe will be down below. Butter, salt, and then this is where I used gluten-free 1-to-1 flour. And my mixer attachment fell off. But I thought, okay, it's just 1-to-1 flour. It's fine. As I was mixing, I could tell the texture was so different. And then as I'm doing this, it felt like sand. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, okay. So it had to set and rise. All right. So moved on to the mashed potatoes. I just do the boiled potatoes, some butter, salt, and pepper. And then I used heavy whipping cream. But it was still pretty thick, so I put a little 2% butter in there and put them in the crock pot. I did this in 2 batches just because I had cut and boiled so many potatoes that my glass bowl here wasn't big enough for me to mix it in there. And I don't like to mix it in my pans because the coating can come off because of the beaters. So I just did it twice, added them all to the crock pot. That went in the fridge until later in the afternoon, and then I just heated them up in there. It worked out really well. But then back to this dough. Like, you can see how easy it's cutting. It literally looks like moon sand or something. So just like, you know, making them into the balls like the recipe said. I actually only took half of the recipe to make this pan. My intention was to make them, if I liked them, I would freeze the rest of the dough. Spoiler alert, the dough went straight into the garbage. As I was doing all of that, I thought, you know what, I cannot subject people to these. I don't think they're going to turn out very well. The dough just doesn't feel right. So I did make another batch with regular flour, and these ones looked, mixed exactly how I thought they would. And before you bake them, you just put a little bit of butter and salt on the top, or salted butter.
Thunderstorm, a lightning strike as we hold each other tight.
This is what the gluten-free ones looked like after they came out of the oven, if you were wondering.
I just tried one of the gluten-free rolls, and it's one of the most disgusting things I've ever tasted in my entire life. 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. Do not make. The regular rolls are in the oven right now, and I'll have to let you know what my family thinks of those since I can't try them.
Yeah, this is what the regular flour rolls looked like. So I just didn't eat one. Not a big deal. I'd probably, like, I don't know. It's been difficult. Whatever. Moving on. Here I am peeling carrots. I know you don't have to peel carrots. It's just a personal preference. You can just wash them if you want. Peeled them and then cut the ends off. And then just chop them up into kind of bite-sized pieces. I wanted them small enough that it wouldn't take forever for them to cook. I made them in the oven. As I was going, I was chopping them. But then some of them I did circles like this one. And I don't know. Nobody said anything about the shape. Just as I was cutting them, I'm like, wow, I'm like I'm not being consistent with this. That's what it was. I was not consistent at all.
You're the rose in a garden, and it shows if I'm honest.
To the carrots, I added up some minced garlic. I honestly just didn't want to get my garlic press out this day. And then some olive oil and some fry seasoning. That's the key.
Baked these in the oven. I think it was like 350 degrees and took maybe about 20 minutes or so. And then everybody was so hungry and we literally just like got to eating, and I got my kids food and I was really hungry, and I sat down and like halfway through my meal, I was like, oh man, I meant to take a clip of this and completely forgot. So I'm sorry I don't have everything to show you, but it was all delicious. That is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe before you go, and I'll see you in my next one.